We're now in session for Wicomico County Council, June 21st, 2016, open work session. In reference to garbage, rubbish, and refusal. But I've looked over here and I see that
Refuse.
staff is not here, so I don't. Refuse. What did I say?
Refusal.
Refusal. Matt, could you do me a huge favor and find out? Yeah, I want to make sure we're recording. Do you even know how that works?
No, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Thanks, Steve.
You
They might want to be here if you let them know that we're not eating lunch. Thanks.
That might be in there eating.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Mr. Young, you can, if you would, please. Thank you very much. How are you?
Doing well.
Garbage, rubbish, and refuse.
Yes. On a lighter note,
Just before lunch.
yes.
The issuance of permit, correct?
Correct. So the county solid waste division of Public Works has a landfill. And while we have one primary location for the disposal of trash, citizens can buy these household refuse permits that they can then use one of our multiple convenience centers. They used to be called transfer stations. And that makes it convenient for trash disposal throughout the county. These permits per county code run from July 1st to June 30th of the following year. Also per county code, these permits cannot be prorated. So the current fee is $60. You pay $60 whether you get it in July or you get it in May. Or if you buy a permit now, let's say you move to the county in June and you need a permit to dispose of trash, you pay $60 and then it expires at the end of June. So then you need to pay another $60.
So you virtually never get a full year out of your.
Correct. Correct. Now, what people do this time of year, prepping for the upcoming fiscal year, is they're buying their permits now, which will be good for starting July 1st to the end of June. One of the things we were hoping to do with this proposed legislation change is to make the permits good for a year from when you buy it. One of the ways we could have gone through this is just got rid of the, say, no proration section of the code. But what that would do is still, we would get a rush of people coming in June and July to buy these permits as they are now. And it would help spread it out if we make it good for a year from purchase. So the thought is sort of mimicking the permit I'm most familiar with is to access the over sand portion of Assateague Island. You can buy a permit each year. It changes colors, just like our current method of household refuse permits. And if you buy it in September, it's good until the end of the month prior. So the reason I brought this forward and asked the executive to pass it on to council was I feel this is a fairer way of doing the permits. Seeing people buy a $60 permit 6 months in is, I don't think that's currently fair. As well as the rush we get in June and July is, if you've been into our solid waste offices, then it's pretty intense. We do offer Saturday hours, so we do have some overtime, or if they'll accept comp time that is earned by employees who are working Saturday hours to make it more convenient. So yeah, this proposal was purely to try to make the process fairer. We're still going to have a rush of people in June and July to buy their permits, but the people who come in the other months of the year, this process will spread out over time to where we won't need Saturday hours, or we can find some other way. I know I've spoken with Councilman Joe Holloway about trying to offer some other options. We maybe at a different convenience center in different months, we offer a way of purchasing these permits.
Joe, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I brought this up 7 or 8 years ago, doing this, and you thought I threw cold water on somebody. There's so much opposition to it, so I appreciate you coming forward with it. It's a good idea. It's in fairness, like you say. It'll cut down on your staff time. Like you say, over a period of time, it will, and I think it'll be easier for the attendants. If they can tell somebody, look, you go and get your, because they have that, people drive up there without their stickers.
Yes.
Well, you go and get it, and then they'll say, well, if I buy it now, I've got to pay $60 for 3 months, and, then the argument ensues, and then, these guys don't need the argument. So I think this is a good point, a good move. The other thing, what you just mentioned, if, with the cell phones, to be able to use credit cards like they could now, maybe one day a year at each convenience station, set up and put a poster up and say that you can buy your sticker there.
Yes,
That's just
yeah,
a thought,
so-
that's something to work on in the future.
So we're getting a lot closer to getting credit card availability at the solid waste division, and once we sort of have that in place, we're in the very initial stages of offering the permits online, and that would be, I think, the ultimate convenience.
Yeah.
So that people don't even have to show up, and that will help with office hours, or if they can just, however we go about it. We typically need to see a copy of the driver's license and registration to confirm that the person lives within the county. So that'll be the biggest trick, is how do we confirm the registration if it's done online? But that's something I'm confident we can work through.
So is it printed on each sticker?
So
individually?
this first round, and I'm not sure if it was attached.
It was.
Yeah, every year we change our sticker color, so it's easy for the attendants to tell, all right, as of July 1st, if they're not yellow, then they need to go get a new sticker. What we're gonna do on this, because we had already bought these stickers before we proposed this, we will be writing the month that they were purchased on there. So for this first fiscal year, we will have this type of, the standard sticker that people usually get. If this is approved, future fiscal years, when we buy these permits, we will have, they make it so that you have all 12 months there, and you can just punch the hole. The way Acetic does it is they have a big, like for September, SEP. So you'd have, right now, my FY16 is a purple sticker, and it has SEP. So they know that, all right, if it's September of 2017 and they see a purple sticker out there, I'm expired at that point. We're gonna try to make it as easy as possible for our convenience center attendants to determine that
That was
people.
my next question, how hard is it gonna be for them in terms of,
Right now, we have stepped up the fact that they're looking at these, they're making sure that the tag numbers match. There is a frustrating amount of people trying to cheat the system when it comes to this. If you paid for trash services, out in the county, $60 a year is not that bad. You can't beat that. I mean, you have to drive to those locations, but still, we have people that cheat the system. On the same side is we don't want to make it so difficult that people find their alternative is dumping it in the woods somewhere or along the road.
Got a lot
So-
of them anyway.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of those anyway. So this is just, given the current household refuse permit system, we're looking at trying to make it fairer, and then it should help with the, I'll say, office hours in June and July, and how chaotic that can be.
We're about at least a month out, just by procedure that we have to follow of passing this.
Yes.
So what will you do between that period of July 1st and, let's say, August, by the time this legislative bill gets through here?
We were going to preemptively write, as we planned to, what month it was purchased. And so August would be, if it gets passed now, we're talking, I think, September, if it's 60 days prior. So at least September or October will be when it would go into effect. And if we already have July, August,
Gotcha.
September written down, that should cover that. So that's something where we can make the change now, and it'll, should flawlessly transition into, when it goes into effect, if it's passed.
Any other questions?
You made a parallel to Aztec Island, and being a Golden Eagle member, and a Golden Eagle's a lifetime pass for Aztec Island when you reach a certain age. Would you consider doing something like this at the landfill?
Jeez.
And having
Come on, John.
an extended.
You mean like
Well,
anybody that's 90 years old gets a lifetime pass?
Yeah,
If,
John Wes will personally come out and pick it up
Yeah.
for you.
the Golden Seagull.
golden,
We could-
golden seagull.
you could use it as actually you could use it as a financial, a fundraiser, where if you needed funds, you could go ahead and sell permits for an extended period of time for people who knew that they were going to probably be needing these for extended periods of times, and it could be a considerable amount of money. And of course, you get into actuarial things like this, where people don't live as long as they think they're going to live, so they buy a 10-year pass and they only live 3 years. So there's no refund.
Boy, he's done
The
the
other
math.
Yeah.
The other problem is, John, the county gets the money and then spends it all, and then they're broke about 3 years too
that's
short,
true.
you know, so that's a big problem.
But
You're not required to answer that way.
Yeah. I would just say that is something we could consider, to keep costs down in terms of the permit costs as well as the tipping fee costs. The landfill being highly regulated, I would question,
whether that would work.
yeah. If I could see that.
If we could do what Joe did, wait 8 years, and then maybe it'll work.
Yeah, if people over 65 generated less trash, and that was a proven fact, yeah, I think that would probably be the best way of going at it. But for now,
If you knew your exact age, John, he could implement that policy right
Yeah.
now.
no golden seagulls at the moment.
You got hoarders, you shouldn't charge them as much because they keep all their stuff at home. so-
Yes.
Any other questions?
I mean, I think this is a good thing to do. I mean, luckily we bought our house in July, so we bought our permit in July, so we kind of lucked out there. But yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing. I mean, it is kind of crazy to, no matter what time, it's the same price, whether, you buy it in July or buy it in December. The tipping fee, I have friends that kind of live all over, and most of them use landfills. And Wicomico County is one of the more affordable tipping, I mean, like across the nation from people I talk to. I mean, people are amazed that it's only $60, as much brush as you want and that kind of stuff. So you're doing a good job there, and I appreciate you, this initiative to make it a little more user-friendly. So that's great.
Thank you.
You're doing great work. Any other questions?
All right.
Weston, thank you very
Hey,
much. for
thank you
coming
all.
in. Thanks for your time. Mr. Shipley, how are you? You want us to, we'll have to start putting these work sessions at the beginning of the legislative session.
Good
Good morning.
Good afternoon, good morning,
Sure.
whatever. It's nice being here with you today. What we're here to, I'm going to give you an overview of the 2016 Wicomico County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This plan is an update of an existing FEMA-approved 2011 plan that is currently in effect in the county. The county and its 8 municipalities need and must adopt an approved FEMA hazard mitigation plan, which allows the county and the municipalities to seek reimbursement for allowed expenses during a declared federal emergency. If you don't have the plan that's approved by FEMA, you can't move to recoup 75% of potential expenses that you submit as a result of responding to that emergency. The plan must be updated every 5 years, so we're here in 2016. The 2016, the subject of this work session, has already been approved by FEMA. The purpose of the plan was to identify, plan, and implement hazard mitigation measures. It takes quite a while to do this. The committee that is responsible for this plan was formed in January 2015 to update that 2011 plan. And as an example of the members on the committee, representatives from all 8 municipalities were there, county officials from Public Works and Planning and Zoning, the Health Department, police agencies, PRMC, fire departments, and people from my office were also on the committee. The first action of the committee was to identify and prioritize hazards. The plan itself discusses the 6 hazards that I'll mention as the primary ones, but then it goes on to discuss all the rest of them also. The 6 highest hazards that were identified by the plan were high winds, coastal flooding, coastal storms, hurricane and tropical storms, nor'easters, and winter storms. Those were the 6 that received the highest ratings from across the board from the committee members. Chapter 14 of the plan contains mitigation action items and rankings that include the new 2016 action items established by the counties and the municipalities and by the committee, and ongoing 2011 action items and status. Not everything has been accomplished that wasn't mentioned in the 2011, so it carries over from one plan to the next, and each of the municipalities and counties is responsible for looking at the action items that they have proposed. And if you wanted to find those specifically in the plan, they would be in Chapter 14 and Appendix H of the plan. Action items involving the county and the 8 municipalities are there. The mitigation actions were identified around 6 groups: prevention, property protection, public education and awareness, natural resource protection, emergency services, and structural projects. Now, we have a number of things that are mentioned in this plan for action items. Would not be responsible of the group not to try to identify where funding sources could come from to do this. If you look at Appendix B in the plan, the existing plan, it identifies funding sources for mitigation projects. And I think there's 4 or 5 pages of funding sources there. To enumerate a few, it's FEMA, the National Flood Insurance Program, Small Business Administration, and the Community Development Block Grants. And that would be an overview of the plan.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
A lot of work. Questions from council? Dave, I had on page 1-9, it was highlighted in our file, and there was a referencing of a date, but there were question marks in there as if it had been left, it wasn't quite, it hadn't been filled out. I don't know if it's the same thing on your plan.
Let me give you a copy of my plan.
Okay, sure. Under public involvement?
It's the public meetings. It would have been, today's date would be 1, as well as vote on resolution.
Okay, it just threw me just to
Yes.
talk about, and it says in addition to the public meetings on question meeting where the council was held. So I didn't know if it was highlighted, so I guess it meant that you guys would be filling it in.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm just trying to see what I had highlighted. And I don't, in reading this, I don't quite, sometimes it may be something I don't understand, but under, I was thinking where you were talking about critical and public facilities and storm surge areas, should the Civic Center have been included in that at all, or are these just properties that are at risk?
No, we actually do our own modeling outside of this plan, and the Civic Center is not in any storm surge area. The closest is the Civic Avenue there where the Salisbury Rehab and Nursing Home is that floods all the time, and that's actually identified in Salisbury City as one of their action plans to address that one particular spot, because it impacts potentially first responders, and if we use the Civic Center as a potential shelter, that would impact people getting to that facility.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure whether part of that was trying to suggest areas where you could go. What about the sheriff's department? Because they always talk about how they are underwater, and any time a hurricane, I mean, their whole purpose in the capital improvement program was that they were at risk. So I didn't see that in here.
They are very much at risk.
weren't
They're
in the
very
building.
much at risk for the downs, the stormwater runoff that comes down the hill there and it gets into their building. But they also pose a substantial risk because of wind rating on the building.
But I don't think, did I miss it? I didn't see it in there. I don't think I did.
I don't
But-
recall if it's in there or
Okay.
not. There's just so many action items, and I apologize that I don't have them all.
It's okay. Just as a note. Sorry, guys, I think that's all the questions that I had. And Was anyone else that had anything here? All right, Dave, I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Again,
your time.
Seemed
Appreciate
like
it.
an awful lot of work to undertake, but we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dave. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn from open work session so that we can go into a closed work session after we take a half hour for lunch.
So moved.
We still have open work session.
What do we have, John? What did I miss?
Got
Trying to
Board of
rush.
Education, fiscal year 17, and the charter amendment. We got to do all that.
I'm sorry, yeah, let me just, let me rephrase that. If we could just adjourn for a half hour, I know that some people do, some of the council members do want lunch, and we can come back, continue an open work session for the Board of Education charter amendments. Thank you. All right, entertain a motion to, for recess.
So moved.
Second.
Second.